And you know, in organization, a lot of people switch off their mobile, leave their mobile downstairs, and a lot of things. And disaster happen what time? When you're sleeping. All right, so again, testing of notification is fundamental. It's an exercise that people do not pay attention to it. Have you had that experience before when you do notification test? Okay, I have a problem now. Someone just activated me. I don't know whether it's real or bluff. Let's call them back. Okay, so the call tree is supposed to come this way, and you, from the bottom, everybody call upward. You just jam up the whole call tree. Right, so these are things that if you don't practice properly, you have to supposed to say, this is a test. Then you pass your message. Or, this is not a test. Then you say, is it, this not a test? Is it a disaster or not disaster? Even when I ask you, tell you, say, this is not a test, you still have to think whether it's a disaster or not. By the way, it's a disaster if you say this is not a test. All right? So, practice simple things like this. The next thing to take note is this. Notification can be done in many ways. The last one I saw, a very big multinational, when they do a notification, it started from the CEO. The CEO say, have a Merry Christmas. Activate the whole country. Very creative, nothing wrong with that. All right, so these are just examples of, if you're the BCP manager, please be creative. Don't repeat the same thing, change something. Like example, call them on a weekday, and then or do something different. Next, we talk about walkthrough. Again, walkthrough should be a standard exercise that you do probably every quarter or every half a year. Reason is because we have to do what we call, some people call it desktop exercise, some people call it walkthrough, the British call it talk through. The bottom line is this: get your whole team who is going to recover in the room and talk about it. Now, a lot of people tell me, oh, Dr. Goh, it's a waste of time because they are just listening. Now, if you do it correctly, they are supposed to tell you what they are going to do. But because you are saying, oh, these guys don't bother, don't read out, just tell them. You miss the point, all right? So the key message is that make sure they do the work. If they don't do the work, get the senior guys to sit in, that's all. This is the basic test. Now, next we go into advanced test. A lot of organizations in this part of the world stops there at the Mickey Mouse test. So every time the auditor asks you, do you have a test? Yes, we have. Truthfully, and I can testify to it, swear. Why? Because you didn't ask me what type of test did I do. So if you ask the next question correctly, what are the tests that you've done? Then you understand that they have not done any new tests since the last 5 years. Because they have done a call tree test the last 5 years. So your job is to ask the right question, and the question is, what are the advanced level tests that you've done? So what tests you do, can we do integrated testing? Means what I do is, we take 3 or 4 business units that is dependent on each other to work together and do a test. Can we do that? Yes, of course. Okay, like example, for those who are working in the bank, same thing. What we do is treasury front office do a test. Okay, that's all right. Back office do their own test because of bank negara requirement. But can we do all 3 together and finish the whole thing? So this is just integrating the whole processes rather than the business unit itself. We have incident simulation. Now, can we simulate a bomb going off and then followed by a few other incidents? So these are just examples. It depends on what is the prevailing threats that's happening to you. We have partial simulation. Partial simulation means we actually work on half the team. Means half the team will go there. I did one partial simulation in Bangkok. It's a very interesting exercise. What we did was we closed part of the bank, and we run the bank on the alternate side. Right. So this is possible. But be careful, there's a lot of risk when we do a test during office hour, because the chances of having a disaster on top of a test is very high. So the caliber and the preparation needed for this exercise is horrendous. Okay, so to do exercise, you literally write a book. If you are not writing a book when you're doing a big simulation exercise, it's not exercise. It becomes a normal drill. So a real test is a book. But of course, when you're talking about notification tests, some of the small ones, it's easy. All right, so this is something that you must go back and take a look at it. So where do I start? Find a checklist. Whatever I do, find a checklist. That's what I'll do. It's not rocket science. Have a checklist. This is a checklist. When you do tests, please understand description of test objective. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about, we have all this documentation run. If you are not clear of what you want to achieve at the end of this test, don't waste your time. The key is what's the objective. The objective is we want to ensure that all of us, even the simple test, all of us can be contacted within 2 hours. We must be strict to that extent because we want all 10 of the people coming. However, after this test, we found that this guy, we have a problem. We can't contact him. So what do? We either change or we make the necessary arrangement. I'll give you an example. When we did this exercise, I was wondering why this guy, the team was very, very worried. I just found that this person was staying in the river. And in the river, at that point in time, no landlines. And mobile phone 10 years ago was not popular. So what happened? When I activate call 3, he has to go to the sampan there, take a boat, go to his house, knock the door and say, BCP activated. But the problem is he's the branch manager. So we have a problem. Branch manager holds the key and it's very inconvenient to call him. So within ourselves, we get the deputy branch manager to hold the key time with permission from the central bank. So all this will be adjusted accordingly so that it works. When we want to do something, objective must be met. You miss the point. The objective is not to pass or fail. The objective is to make sure it works. Next, we talk type of test. Is this test a test that we walk around or we call each other? Or we need to move or we need to have location? What's the scope? Are we talking of this building, this location, this region? We just had exercise, every 2 years we have a nationwide exercise for all banks. And the exercise is a very simple exercise. They scope it. They say, this is what's going to happen. There will be cyber attack on our whole financial institution. Something like that. So this is the scope that must be clear who's going to be involved. Next, we have which part of plan. Are we testing just a plan? Means walkthrough, or are we testing a people? Now, one of the things we also, I noticed as a BCP manager, we have failed miserably is we do not test our senior management. We test people who are below us, like training. We train people below us, and we wonder why we don't have budget. Because the bosses don't know how extensive this work is until you tell them. Test your senior management. Then they will understand what they do not understand. Because we assume they understand. They understand, but in a very general way. This is just an example. I remember when I joined GIC, the chairman is Lee Kuan Yew. And when I say we need to brief chairman, I was scolded. I was actually told and say, you don't brief him, he's a smart guy. I'm not saying he's not a smart guy. I'm saying that he will know something about BCP, but we need him to be more precise. All your chairmen or your CEOs are the same. They are all practitioners. They would adopt general management theory. So your job is to make sure we are crystal clear what's a disaster and what a crisis, because to them it's still the same. So your job is to clarify and get them clear, and the only thing to do is to test them. Next, we talk about success criteria. Please tell your bosses passing and failing a test is acceptable. Failing a test is acceptable. The basic thing is we live in a culture where passing is mandatory, not acceptable. So your job is to convince your management that testing is about continuous improvement. Exercising is about continuous improvement. If we fail, we improve upon ourselves. So this is something that will protect us from criticism from management. All right. What are the prerequisites? Are we supposed to do this and that? So these are all the small little things that's important. What are important things with regards to precondition? Example, we have to have budget. And when we do tests, let me share with you something. When we do tests, make sure if it's a Saturday, provide good food. I'm not joking. The lunch matters. Okay, so whatever you do, please give good food. It helps a lot. Participant, internal, external. This is where you bring in your interdependency during the exercise. Okay, I'm going to go slightly faster. The reason is because our time. What are the principal resources? Most of you complain, my boss do not give me a budget. Why? Because at every test, you tell your boss you passed the test. If you pass the test, why do I need to give you more resources? You're doing well. Because we are very prone, we are very worried that if we tell our bosses we failed the test, the bosses says we are not very good. But the reason why we don't get the budget is, are you aware that because you're doing well, so the bosses say, if you're doing well, I don't have to pay any attention to you, and hence I don't need to give you budget. It works against you. Our Asian cultures is happening this way. Your job is to protect yourself. Tell your boss, say, boss, it's okay to fail. It's about continuous improvement. Set that as a mindset first. Then highlight all the issues that doesn't work. So your job is to highlight this in the test. So resources for doing a test, normally we never have enough resources. However, once we raise this to management and it doesn't work, management has to do something. It's called due diligence or corporate governance. People involved in the test should not be involved in testing. Agree and disagree. First year, yes. Second year, no. You try to switch in alternates, because in reality, alternates are required. Right? So this is where most of you have just finished H1, N1. Now you know why you want to split the operation and so on and so forth, because you have to deploy your alternates in this exercise. What's the scope? Do you want to, most of us like to do save the world. We want to do a test where the whole Menara goes down. Good luck. Okay, you can do it on the 5th year, yes, but don't go for that kind of massive exercise. Then you'll be going through the motion. Do it step by step and make sure that the tests are done accurately. And do you need external people or internal people? These are all the things. So these are all the things that you have to have as principle. How do I plan for exercise? Now, like what I mentioned, a lot of people like to do, this is the grand finale. I remember I was, I did help PIDM. And the last part of this exercise, unfortunately, was to brief the board. And one interesting thing, I always see the chairman of the board saying that this to every single CEOs and management team. Why can't we do the test, live test now? Why? You guys are so senior, so competent, why can't we do a live test? That's what happened to all of you. And what will you do? You ban and you do a live test. And you really, really make a boo-boo big time. You must be able to stand to management and say, sir, with these resources and with time and space, we need to actually escalate it over the next 2-3 years. There's only one scenario I worry. One is when the bank collapsed, one bank collapsed, and someone bombed the office. Highly possible scenario, right? Because when you collapse, I'm depositor, I'm not happy. You did not guarantee up to, you only guarantee up to 250,000 ringgit. What happened to the other amount? No guarantee. I get angry, I bomb you, or I just touch your place, something like that. So this is an example of a possible scenario which I can think of. But however, you don't do this scenario now. You take one step at a time. Let's think about my building going down. Let's do a bank, closure of bank, which is their bread and butter anyway. Then on the 3rd year, we integrate. You see what I mean? So don't go in for the kill, because you have no resources and you will not be able to sort out all the basic problems before you go to a bigger problem. So in testing, follow what I mentioned, take one step at a time. Okay, next question. When you go to the chairman or CEO, the CEO doesn't want to hear buts, okay? Most of BCP managers who fail miserably because of this. Every time you go to the room, are we ready? That's what the CEO will say, are we ready? We have spent so much money, we have given you so much salary, are we ready? So how do you protect yourself? You cannot lie, right? You lie to a chairman or CEO, you are dead. So what you do is this. You get them to approve a 2 or 3 year or 5 year plan. And then whenever you answer, are we ready? Yes, we are ready for year 2011. Why? Because year 2011 is our first year of implementation. So we have completed our notification tests twice a year for this year. We have done 2 walkthrough tests, and everybody is, so what's the objective, what's the readiness level? We are able to notify everybody in the organization within 2 hours, and everyone who is involved in this exercise, this recovery, is aware of what's their roles and responsibility as per plan. That is what we mean, we are ready, sir, without lying. Don't blink your eyes. All right? Very important. This is exactly what I mentioned. So take one step at a time. Next year, are we ready again? Say, yes, sir, we are ready. Why? Because it's approved. The second year, we are able to operate at our alternate site for 2 hours. All systems, we have full access to all our recovery system, and it's operational. And we have done our call 3 and all this. So we're not lying. Management doesn't want to hear the word but. Means you are not ready. So you must say, we are ready. But if he question you and say, we have disapproved already. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Year 5, we're ready. We're doing a full simulation if you're in the bank. Okay, so this is a very important part. The key is to be able to develop a series of plans and slowly upgrade yourself. Okay, what are the considerations when you're doing overall tests? The key message I want to do is, you need to understand whether what is your industry, what is your environment. If your industry is an industry that has disaster or crisis every day, you adopt a very different approach. If your industry is a very safe industry, So risk analysis is very important and based on your profile and your tracks. So these are very important. You need to also start to build up your capability. Remember, everybody hates BCP. I've been in this industry more than 20 years. If anyone tell me I love BCP except those who are full-time, I will send you to a mental institution. Why? Because there's really something wrong with you. Okay, or you should be a BCP manager, seriously. But generally nobody likes BCP because it's an extra work. So your job is to make sure you build up this capability. Let them know what's the 7th stage, the phases of implementation. Okay, then start to vary scenario. Don't do the same scenario every year. Okay, call 3 test, 9 o'clock again. Call 3 test, 9 o'clock. 3 months later, call 3 test, 9 o'clock. You're bored to death. So please make sure that the last thing you need to do is make sure there's documentation, and documentation must be done at the end of the exercise, not on Monday morning. Don't waste your time. All right. So what resources are available? In BCM still we have everything. For those who have iPhone, by the way, we have a dictionary on the iPhone itself. It's called, you just type BCMI, you should be able to get that iPhone. With Facebook, YouTube, group site. Anyone interested, we have actually a group site. It's about 3,800 professional by invitation. You can go in, every time a problem, ask a question. Once you ask a question, someone will actually reply to you. That's one thing I like about this, and it's a private, there's Twitter and there's also LinkedIn, and there's Resilient magazines. Okay, this is the group site that I mentioned. It's about 338 something now. The key is that when you throw in a question, someone will answer for you. That's one thing I like about this whole place. We started at Jakarta. We just started Jakarta last week, MTE, a Meet the Expert seminar, and they are conversing. We set up a chapter just for Indonesia, all spoken in Bahasa Indonesia. Okay, a quick summary. Before we start BCP, please understand what is a Core 3 test, the British call it cascading test, notification test, and all this. Please standardize the terminology. What is all the terms? What's RTO? What's RPO? Please standardize. Next, we need to have tools. We need to have a checklist to confirm that we have done it properly or not. We need to have an overall game plan for management to sign off now. If you don't have, please have one now. We need to have the resources. How do you get resources? Tell the boss what's deficient in your system. That's the result. That's the gap that you need to have. Okay? What's the primary objective of all this exercise? Is to make sure that you're ready. Okay, the key message is this. While you're developing your overall schedule, set out objective, make sure objective integrates. So this is the only time you will probably spend a month developing all the tests that you need for your organization for the next 3 years. How you implement, you design them as you go along. Last but not least is senior management commitment. Commitment from senior management, nothing personal. We support the BCM program. That's the only commitment they have for you, by the way. Then you tell yourself, why my boss don't support me? Reason is because you did not escalate to him the problem. Because once you escalate, he thinks you're stupid. But I have a very different view. When I escalate to my boss now knows the problem. And if there's a disaster, he is the problem, not me anymore. Understand? So this is the part that we are, as Asians, we are very, very worried about. Our bosses think that we're stupid. I'd rather have them think that I'm stupid and give me more money, my process, than to just live with the problem. Because when the disaster happens, that's where your head rolls. Participation. Make sure everybody gets involved, but don't repeat the exercise again and again. Be more creative. Budget, like what I mentioned, budget is never given to you. Your budget is always given to you from a need basis, from a gap basis. And if I'm senior management, I've not seen the gap, I don't see a need, I will not support you. Trust me, I sit on steering committee, and especially IT steering committee. Whenever you come in and you tell me, we need $4 million for EMC box because we want to ensure that there's mirroring taking place and zero downtime, I'll throw it out the room. Because all my other bosses don't want to know. They just want to know, in English, tell me what's the problem. And that's exactly what you need to do. Tell the bosses the problem in English, and you give the spot. Resources. Resources must be created. Your job is to make sure that you have a full-time BCM professional sitting in your room. If you don't have, good luck to you, because it is a full-time job. A lot of bosses think that it can be done part-time. It cannot be. And then the other thing is, please have a secretarial support for this BCM team. This person. Why? Because try calling a meeting. You take 2 days and half of them don't come. Agree? So you don't have that time to call people. The best is I always leverage on the COO secretary, because when he calls the meeting, everybody comes. I noticed that. So learn all these basic things in life. Okay, in terms of time and space, that's the end of my presentation. With that note, thank you.